This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures, and then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in. So let's waste no time, folks. Woo-wee! Let's get to it. Story number 1. Ohio has another enemy, and it's called obesity. Laziness, drug use, alcoholism, and a constant diet filled with unhealthy foods. These are the obstacles holding Ohio residents back, and probably people across America. The data is showing that children and adults battling with obesity is on the rise. Now, this story is still developing, but it shows you that you have to work out and you have to get in shape. That's a mandate enforced by the Mediator. While everybody else is punking out with COVID, talking about vaccines, I'm talking about hitting the gym, baby. Story number 2, vitamins and minerals. Ooh, that's a recipe for greatness. Story number 2, digging deeper into why people are getting shot in Youngstown. Youngstown is not a bad place. It's just certain people. These are some of the words said by some people expressing their opinions about the local community. This proves that the real issues plaguing Youngstowns are internal. Conflicts that stem from inner city relationships causing people that have access to guns to solve their conflicts with those guns. Bang, bang. In this story, you will find cause and effects resulting in impulse solutions that often end in regrets. I feel so bad that I did something last night that I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have took that life. Those are regrets. Now, this is a big story that could explain how certain incidents emerge over time and end up with somebody in the hospital, on the hospital bed, and somebody in jails, in shackles, chained up. That's bad news, and that's why story number 2 made it in this week. You're killing your own people. Story number 3. Dedicated to the future of education, as I gracefully take this microphone and spit so many stories that are changing your life. I make it look easy, but it's not. Locally, there are small education and arts movements sparking conversations about the importance of the future of education and the arts. Some poetry deep inside, loving those who love me, feeling gracious, giving flowers to those who want to be a part of my life and a part of yours. That's poetry, baby. These small movements are motivating people to invest in education. Now, this is they're investing in education and community centers. Education, community centers, if you want to be exact, and performing arts venues also. People are starting to invest. During the pandemic, creative people, well, they were still in the midst of a pandemic, so creative people have had to get even more creative and find ways to fund what they love doing, and that's expression, poetry, good music, soulful sounds for the heart and love to gracefully fill the area and make the flowers grow and shine with the sun. That's why story number 3 is such a big headline. Arts, education, and love. Story number 4. Taking a look at the local pay scales. Money. Is there enough money to spread around? This is an important local question. A few headlines have drawn attention to pay raises given to local city leaders, now including school board members and more public workers demanding pay raises. Now, in these local stories, it's clear that even with the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, the workroom floor has become very complex compared to years ago, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of people still working. Locally, some news stories have popped popped in and out of the headlines about the pay scales and the mounting grievances for higher pay to account for inflation. Now, what is keeping this story alive is the growing demand for skilled workers and to get people back into the job market, with jobless claims on the rise still. Now, it may also be important to note that Liberty Police Chief made headlines asking for a 5% raise. Folks, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing this for the love of the game. I don't get much. 30 city officers are paid over $70,000 annually. The job is tough. Every job is tough. But I want you to know what that amounts to. That amounts to $2,100,000. Why don't we just drop the money, put a smiling face on it, and spread it out, and do everything that we want to do for the love of the game? That sounds like a fairy tale, but it's impossible, folks. We need the money, and if they want the money, then give it to them. They're fighting for the greater good of the public. Big headline story number 4. That's why I made it this week. If they don't want it, give it to me. I'll take it and spin it back into the community. Oh. Story number 5. Is there a local police shortage? Big headline. Multiple local news stories in the past few weeks have some residents wondering if there is a policing shortage. Here are some headlines that surface drawing awareness to this topic. Mayor Jamel Tito Brown requested help from the federal government to help fight crime. That's 1. Number 2. Struthers has considered lowering the age to recruit more officers. That's another story. Number 3, Youngstown sees a spike in crime, so all this could be a sign that there's not enough police on the street. Is that a fact, fiction, or is everybody just sitting on the couch watching the ball game? These stories have drawn awareness to the question of if there is a policing shortage, and if policing is really the answer to growing crime stories. Policing stories have stayed consistent in the news, and that's why story number 5 got bumped up this week. Big headline. Story number 6. Child cases on the rise when it comes to COVID, cancellations, and the continued wrath of the virus known as COVID-19, not Coca-Cola, COVID-19. With some sports games canceled this week, well, last week if you're watching it today, or years ago if you're watching it in the future. Last week, they're showing that child cases are on the rise. So with some sports games canceled, and this week, or whatever time frame we're in, the child cases are on the rise, no matter which way you put it. Hopefully, you're looking at this in the future, it's already over. Now, the wrath of COVID-19 is still a top story that analysts all over the world continue to dissect. COVID-19 is sparking so many new headlines that it has a lot to do with what we're seeing and what we're seeing in this with these stories and what we're getting out of it. Now, a lot of children are starting to get these this virus, and that's what's spiking the story to almost to the top, because child cases are on the rise. Cancellations are also on the rise. Now, this all equals out to money spent and money lost without people being in the classroom, with people dying, with people getting the virus and surviving. There's so much going on, so many different stories that it's kind of hard to keep up, and we don't know who's winning the fight. But the data is showing that this virus has a higher survivability rate, but it keeps getting pumped in the headlines. People are getting dangerous, losing games. Now, this is what got this story in this week. This ain't going nowhere anytime soon. That's why story number 6, big headline, almost made it to the top 2. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Whew. Locals are having relationship problems and divorce rates prove it. Digging deeper into conflicts and police reports, you will find an alarming trend of stories connected to male and female tension. The proof is in the divorce rates, almost a full page now in the paper. Now, but the question now surrounding this story is what's causing so many people to fall victim to domestic disputes. Now, there is deception, scandal, and a lot of silent protest surrounding this story because a lot of children and family members are caught in between, in the middle. If I had never seen it for myself, I wouldn't know what's the power of a relationship, how it can kill you, it can get people killed. Now, with new stories emerging each day centered around this one key topic, some people are actually losing their life dealing with domestic and relationship disputes. This is a real deal local story involving extreme heartbreaks, with men blaming women and women blaming men, and some even choosing not to engage with the other sex, period. I know that may sound nasty, but this is a nasty story. And that's why story number 7 made it in this week. Top 2 almost made it to the top. Whew. She's your queen to be, a princess he forever, to fit your royal fire. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Top story: COVID-19 has once again left Ohio to rely on herd immunity as the only option because the vaccination plans are crumbling right before our very eyes. There is mounting evidence that the vaccination plan is not working. Some people are even getting the virus with the vaccine. Now, if the plan was to shut down states until a vaccination was approved and limit case numbers and hospital visits, that plan seems to have failed, folks. Now, what is important about this story is the fact that Ohio and America needs a more realistic game plan. And at the moment, herd immunity may be the only realistic option. So let me clarify this with the definition from the dictionary of what herd immunity means. The dictionary says that herd immunity means resistance to the spread of an infectious disease within a population that is based on pre-existing immunity of a high proportion of individuals as a result of previous infection or vaccination. This story made it in because it remains evident that America was not built for mandates and shutdowns. Proof of this is mounting every day because the damage has already been done, and herd immunity from its definition may be the only solution in America. And what America does, the world will follow. And that's why story number 8 made it to the top local headlines and developing news story this week. Herd immunity for local residents may be the only solution. That's why I made it in. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made in this week. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Ooh, I'm fighting, baby. I'm putting up a fight against COVID. Ooh, give me 3 cc's of adrenaline and I'm pumping it out. Left him in the corner. Jab, jab, jab. Right hand, left hand. Oh, get in there, buddy. Get him and put him up a fight. Ooh, give him all you got, Mediator. Woo! I'm a fighting beast, ready to take COVID down. Coming on all challengers. The fight is still in me when I'm seeing weaklings fall to the wayside crying, there's a person rising in the distance. Woo! And he's called the Mediator. Let's get to it, folks. Story number 1. America's eating habits are once again in the headlines. This is similar to a local story that made it in. Now, what is in our food? That is the talk. Talk like this continues to spark some interesting conversations about what Americans are eating. This story is not only sparking conversations about food, but it's growing. But the growing problems are also in this story. The growing problems of health and obesity is a big headline. Now, if it matters, the data will play a huge factor in how this story is either taken seriously or not, because there is a growing proof that people are actually living longer. So they don't know if this is actually a true statement, because people are living longer, but we don't know how. If it's something in the food, then I don't know, But story number 1, big headline: people are smoking, drinking, doing the dude, and they're still living to about 90 years old. So we don't know We don't know, but that's what story number 1 made in this week. America's eating habits are once again in the headlines. Slow story, but could gain some steam. Story number 2. North Korea is creeping back into top headlines. Once again, North Korea is in the news because of the country's missile systems programs. Now, top headlines showing photo evidence of the country's advancements and threats are what got the story in. Now, what is keeping this story alive is the fact that no one knows what could happen if America sleeps on this story. It's a sleeping issue. The details in this report could develop with America searching for another solution if they successfully hit a target. So we don't know what could happen with them popping off missiles. Now, the question, the big all that's seeing, all eyes on the story is what happens if they actually succeed at hitting something with those missiles. That could be bad news, especially for the people, their surrounding neighbors and country. That's why story number 2 made it in this week. Psycho, Iko, with that Draco, with that Vico, with that Vico, missiles popping in pippos. I'm sure you get the picture. Somebody's got a psycho missile problem that could possibly blow some things up. Psycho, Iko, psycho. Story number 3. Instead of taxing the rich, why not tax alcohol, tobacco, and drugs? Some more! One article in The Atlantic about taxing alcohol could spark up another debate. Bright ideas are not uncommon when it comes to the two-party system, folks. Democrats want to tax the rich even if they're wealthy themselves. And Republicans under Trump passed down tax cuts to help stimulate the economy. Now, if you dig deeper into this story, there is a good counterpunch, though. There's a good one, because a lot of people drink alcohol, smoke and chew tobacco, and use drugs. This is money on and off of the books that is causing medical bills to skyrocket. So instead of taxing the people with the money, could the government tax bad habits? This has been tried before, if you didn't know. Now, after Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez made some headlines stirring the pot by wearing a tax the rich dress, new waves of debates are popping up about who actually is spending all of America's government currency notes, aka the money. Is it the 1%? Is it the poor? Is it the middle class? Somebody is spending the money. Well, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she may know who it is, because she may not have only put on a fashion show, but she may have also opened up another Pandora's box in the field of spending by going on the record trying to make a statement. Now, the sad part about this story is the fact that an alcohol tax under George Washington, when the nation was founded, caused a violent insurrection. And when you refer to history, now this story is still developing. That's why story number 3 made in this week. Tax who? Big headline. Story number 4. Weighing the pros and cons of science. Is man causing climate change, or is science causing climate change? And if science is causing climate change, could science stop climate change? Putting blankets on glaciers, and now what they call geoengineering. Science is at the root of the problem and the solution. The pros have a lot to, when you talk about the pros, it has a lot to do with making life easier. So people like life easier, and that's what science has done, made life easier for some people. And the cons have a lot to do with taking the hard route and to clean it up. So if you look at electricity, it chooses the least path of resistance, and a lot of people will choose that least path. So there may be no hope for this. So science wants to create bigger clouds to reflect the sun's rays to cool down the earth. What would happen if they just took it to the extreme, and the next thing you know, they mess something else up? Story number 4, big headline, weighing the pros and cons of science. Do we need to try to fix this planet, or are we doomed already? Big headline. Well, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it. I'll be right back with the top 4. Think positive. Don't go anywhere. You're in the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Saving the world and the planet, one story at a time. Big headlines. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method.inc.com. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. There's a lot to do when you're the mediator, but what I've learned is that I've heard so many stories in my lifetime that I've started to believe some of them. And some of them I've just said, you know what? I'm going to make up my own story. One day I woke up, came outside, and the sun was shining. I decided that I was going to try to save the world by telling a story. And I found out that in the end, we all must die and be happy in the ground and rise up like the sun. Oh, what a special story. Don't you believe it? Now get up and do something with your life. Let's get to it. Story number 5. COVID-19 is exposing America's weaknesses when it comes to health. If you didn't know the importance of being in shape and having a strong immune system, you should now. If you didn't know the importance of having a strong health plan, you should now. COVID-19 has exposed America's weaknesses when it comes to health and health policies. A report by Vox goes on the record and reports on how some Americans are dying because nearby hospitals are too crowded to take them in. Even veterans. Doctors have been screaming for a healthier America for years, even since the Obama administration managed to get the Affordable Health Care law passed. America's health concerns can even go back as far to the expansion of the food pyramid. I'm sure some people remember that. Now, what got this story in is the simple fact that medical bills are pretty high at the moment, and healthy people are conflicting with people who don't practice good health habits. Get that cigarette away from me. I don't want to inhale it. I don't want to have to pay the bill. You ain't going to want to pay it because you can't afford it. Story number 5 made it in. Big headline. Story number 6. Suing gangs could be a new gun strategy. Mayor Lori Lightfoot of Chicago, Illinois, has made headlines calling on the authority to sue gangs. At least that's what the headline wrote. Now, deep inside the article, it may talk about some other things, but the headline actually reads that she wants to sue gangs. It's a good read. Now, this is a unique approach, would be a unique approach, according to the headline, but the article may steer a little different way. Now, this is a unique approach when referring to traditional methods of countering crime. The story also sparks up a number of questions, like, is this possible? And if you show that you have some animosity to gangs, can you actually sue them when they're already breaking the law? So, if we show gangs. If we show this story, does it make gangs an actual legal organization that they have a license to just go out and stir up the pot to try to balance out nature? That sounds like a pretty interesting story. Now, how this story develops will be interesting to see, especially if you can sue criminals who already have nothing. That's what they're robbing for, because they're trying to get something. They're making music about getting something, and when they get something, they make music about having nothing. So story number 6 is such a big headline. Whew, sad world we live in, but let's sue the people who are stealing the money. Big headline. Could it be possible? Could it work? Could blame Miss Lightfoot be onto something? Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. 2 stories. Is too much government the problem or the answer? Regulations, bureaucracies, and the growing question of what works and doesn't work in government. The watchmen are scanning the globe to find corruption, scam artists, slackers, and everything that costs taxpayers money outside of productivity. In the two-party system, it may be time to assess the term government and why talk about too much government is a hot topic in a lot of circles. This story has been the top discussion for well over 80 years as masters of government have tried to find systems that work for the people represented by government officials. Creeping in and out of the headlines over the years, well-informed people are finding out that some government policies stifle progress and enable abuse of a lot of good government programs that are meant to ease the burden on the people in need of government programs. So I guess what they're saying is government the answer, the solution? Can government possibly make the world better? Some people don't trust the government. This will be a big story to focus on in the next few years under Biden. This administration is calling for more government and more government accountability, more government jobs, because they know that government has to pay up, and they know that government has all the power. Or do the people have the power? Big headline. Big question. That's why story number 7 made the top 2 this week. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Pow! Packing a punch. Working class Americans have some major concerns. Pay, fair treatment, and even job conditions. Working class America has some major concerns about the future workforce. With job numbers showing a slight lag in the field of labor, this story became a top headline, causing some major concerns about the job market. And let me remind you, over the years, the working class has been falling to their knees, hoping for some labor secretary savior coming from the clouds, telling them that their retirement pay has been boosted and that somebody is going to come from the clouds and save us all from our hard-working jobs. This is a big headline because working class America feels like when they feel like they are neglected and they don't get back to work, nothing gets done. You have to work it before you jerk it. You have to work it before you slurp it. You have to work it before you lick it. You have to work before you feel pleasure.
I'm sure you get it. It's rated PG. Because if you're thinking that it's nasty, you're a nasty person. Now let me hear you go. Work in the world. Now let me feel you.
I feel much better now. I'm going to get back to work. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the media, the people on the front lines, the journalists. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the man stuck in the middle, working hard, looking through your stories. The mediator, the man in the middle. If you want to show some support, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just for you. I feel so relieved after getting my song out. I've been waiting to sing that song for years. You have to work it before you jerk it. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator with me, Brian West. Have a good week, everybody. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.